And right now, as promised, being joined by Adam Zucker from CBS Sports and CBS Sports Network, inside college football, inside college basketball. But right now, when it comes to this time of the year, as I've made the point several times over the last couple of weeks, it's all about two things: March Madness and soon-to-be Masters. And joining me now is Adam Zucker from CBS Sports. Adam, thanks for coming on.
Randy, good to be back with you, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, this is... let's just say you have some rather voluminous amounts of reading to be doing. I got the research packet the other day because I'm kind of on the mailing list. And I went through those by regions, and I was like, oh my God. That's like studying every team for the very beginning of college football, only they're going to play within about a 3 or 4 day period.
Yeah, well, Randy, you can swipe left on that now, and I'm gonna do so for most of it just a few days from now when we're only down to 16 teams. And I'll tell you, yeah, the highlighter runs dry because I'll go through those and kind of like if I get through halfway through a nugget and it looks like something usable, boom, I'll highlight it on the team page, and then when it's time to talk about that team, okay, now I'm going back and I'll dig into this a little bit more. And as you know from being at our place, I mean, we've got great people to kind of sift, if you will, get the good stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you've also got playing games from last night and then tonight. My UCLA,
I wasn't sure if you wanted to acknowledge the Bruins or not, man.
Yeah, my Bruins. It's always nice to give a little love to a school that hasn't won a tournament game since, I don't know, there was a tournament. So yeah, St. Bonaventure, which I won't even go there. But yeah, they beat UCLA last night, and Radford, which sounds like something out of a Saturday Night Live skit, beat Long Island University Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, they beat LIU Brooklyn, and so you know they look like a pretty good team. They got that kid Carlik Jones who hit the game winner to win their conference championship, and their coach used to work for Shaka Smart, and so he's been a part of stuff as well. But you know you've been with us when a team does something it hasn't done in a while. We like to put up the full screen of who the president was, how much gas cost, what the number one song or movie was, and all that. So they did that for St. Bonaventure last night, and because it had been 1970. I said, hey, you know what? One other thing that's missing here, how many national championships did UCLA win between now and St. Bonaventure's last tournament win? So that was a pretty telling thing.
That would be 11.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's a chunk. It's a big chunk. So it's yeah, you know what? Your guys, you lost 4 guys who scored at least 500 points, and from last year. So it was definitely a rebuilding year. I know they don't acknowledge those at UCLA. It's kind of like Alabama
not at all,
waiting to come back.
No, that and one bad shopping trip in China.
Yes, you did lose a few. You lost a few points there too.
We lost some potential in China. Yeah, but this whole tournament is something that it seems so glamorous on the outside. And I know for young people out there, and you get it all the time too, because you're a graduate of Syracuse, which is the natural place for every single play-by-play and host in America to come from. You get asked a lot about, how do I get into sports media? How do I get into broadcasting? Talk a little bit about something that people don't quite appreciate, and something we've talked about before. I hope you don't mind, but the glamour of the update studio that you get to use.
Well, it's great. I love it. I love it, and because to me, the tournament. I guess I'm old enough that for me, the tournament was always Greg Gumbel taking me from the game I was watching over to this other game that I could not have otherwise possibly seen because there's just one channel to watch the games on. And so here's what's happening there. And or they'll pull you out of this game because this game's about to have a finish and it's going to be amazing. Little did we know that back then, I don't think they even gave it to you live. They often would just kind of do it the way they do golf, where it's kind of like somewhere in the matrix. And so I thought I thought the coolest thing, that I was doing was the updates for Vern and Brad on the SEC on CBS. But that's telling people watching our game what's happening on someone else's game, so to speak. And I'm in the studio and I'm watching screens. I got my suit and tie on. For this, I'm in a room upstairs, and it's was it Mike Carey was the NFL official that we were using for a little while.
Yeah, right. They built that little, I guess they called it studio.
Yeah, well, so there's like a long desk. There's 6 screens in front of me, and it's I got pretty good sized screens. I got every game that's on. I've got a monitor showing me what we're going to use, and I've got a monitor showing me. I think I get my choice to flick around or whatever, and so I'm in there wearing like my Patagonia gear. And I got a researcher hanging out with me. I've asked that the catering, especially the hot stuff, be moved to another location because the sterno fumes and the garlic just after 12 hours.
That's just not the same as the good old bullpen area downstairs, though.
And you know how I feel about that.
Yes, I do.
I was just pointing it out yesterday. It says on the side of this thing, vapor's harmful. Do you think we should be breathing it? Anyway. It is awesome because I get to sit there, and the biggest thing, it's almost like the way NASCAR drivers have the mental challenge of keeping focus. The last thing I ever want to do is tell Ian Eagle that hey, right now over on TBS, blah 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 blah, and then say back to you, Spiro, because I've got announcing teams on the wall. I've got the channels associated with them on the wall because sometimes the channels will change, like which network is showing it. So yes, even though every game is available, people want to hang out and watch their one game, and so I got to tell them, hey, over on this channel, and so in my head it's like, well, the guys on TBS, that's this broadcasting crew, but I'm doing an update for True TV, and that's this crew. But you know how I challenge myself to do the triple Lindy in my head. I want to avoid just kind of saying the wrong name as on the throwback. So I write everything down. I make sure I get it right, and it's a lot of fun. Like when South Carolina upset Duke, and we fed that update to everybody. That was really cool.
Plus, you also like to produce and direct.
Yes, I luckily have a professional producer and director who 1 out of maybe 20 times I will offer a challenge and just make a slight suggestion.
Hey,
that kind of thing.
And for people that really don't know, you came roughly from a local TV market into the, what was it, college sports network? Is that what the original name?
Yeah, the original name was CSTV, and it was started by the guys who had started Classic Sports Network and sold it to ESPN to make ESPN Classic. And I was a local sportscaster in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and I know you love hearing about that.
Oh yeah,
those old glory days, and and my daily disc golf barrage, and so CSTV held auditions as a startup down at Chelsea Piers, where our studio used to be, where you first came to us.
Yeah. And
so 2003, I had just met Rachel and got an offer to just kind of come in for a day, read some teleprompter for some Cape Cod baseball games, and call it an audition. And then a few months after that, they told me that they basically wanted to have me be one of their first hosts. And then a few years later, CBS bought it, and I was still primarily cable, filled in for Timmy B a few times on the main desk for football when he would go do a doubleheader. And then when he ended up going, I slid into that big chair and then started doing some more of the halftimes for Greg Gumbel while he was still at football and Tim was gone. So I was doing some of those halftimes, and they kind of mixed it up. Sometimes it was me with Doug Gottlieb, Seth Davis. Sometimes it was just Doug and Seth. Sometimes just me and Seth. Kind of just varied it up, and then the last couple of years, I've just kind of been the guy to do it until Greg comes back for the stretch run into the tournament. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, when it comes to hosting, and I obviously get a chance to work with you every Tuesday night on Inside College Football during the football season, but your sort of philosophy, because I find it A, refreshing, and B, kind of unusual. Because most hosts these days, whether it's a host or a play-by-play guy or whatnot, almost consider themselves commentators. You seem to go in the other direction, where you've got a very defined role sort of in your mind, where, you know, it's sort of, for lack of a better term, and not to get too old school on you though, but Dragnet was an old TV series, Joe Friday, you know, just the facts, ma'am. And you seem to be kind of a throwback to more of the old school kind of just the facts approach. Is that true?
Definitely, or I would say just the facts, and then this kind of the human element of things is where I'm curious, and so I am the who and the what. And when I have 4 former football players around me, especially a 6-time first-team All-Pro like yourself, Aaron Taylor, a Lombardi winner and a Super Bowl winner, also like yourself, and with BJ, who's been through the trenches, and Rick Neuheisel, who's been a quarterback and a coach, why would I tell anybody the how and the why? Mm-hmm. You know, that's what you guys do. You guys played. Did I play football in high school? Yeah. Am I on TV because of that? No. And so, considering that by the time our 2-hour show on Tuesdays is over, we're being told, wrap it up, we're out of time, wrap it up. There is no time for me to opine. You know, if we have a serious, you know, an NCAA-related issue or the concussion topic, which you're, I think, the most well-versed on by far among any of us, you know, that's where I will need to do some more reading and relay more facts and offer kind of an opinion if I don't think enough is being done in a situation like that. But, yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, and I often hear play-by-play guys especially give, I think, way too much opinion before letting their analysts into the picture. And so, you know, to me, TV is an analyst realm. I mean, radio, the play-by-play guy needs to say more because the people can't see what's happening. But I've always thought, let me back away. I'm just trying to, you know, I'm just kind of the tracks and you guys are the train. Yeah, it's kind of how I always thought about it.
All right. Hey, you know, you're around a whole group between the sports network side and the CBS Sports side of great analysts, some unbelievable former basketball players and former coaches. But, you know, in light of also what I just asked you, but I'm also curious, you do all this research, you see all this hoops during the course of the season. If you had to pick your Final 4, what would they be?
Well, you know what? In light of what happened with DeAndre Hunter going down for Virginia now with this broken wrist, that region, the South region, was already kind of controversial because Virginia was going to face the presumed, you know, winner of Kentucky, Arizona. I love Arizona right now, and I think DeAndre Ayton to me is the best player in the country at this point. So I think I'd go with Arizona in the South. I mean, they have a 4 next to their name, but I think that's kind of ridiculous. Michigan to me was playing just lights out basketball like they were down the stretch last year. I think they have what it takes to mess up North Carolina, although Providence is a bracket buster in that region too, and they've beaten Xavier, who's the 1 seed. They've already beaten them twice this year. So that if I had to pick one team, as you're asking, I'd go Michigan there. The Midwest region, the Omaha region, I'm inclined to go with Duke because I think they have what it takes. I still don't love Michigan State. Sometimes I feel like they get just cluttered in the paint. Kansas, I don't think, with Azubuike. I like Duke's matchup down the stretch there. And then I was in love with Texas Tech this year, and they weren't healthy down the stretch. They got healthy, and when I was watching them in the Big 12, it didn't look the same to me. I really wanted to take Texas Tech, but I feel like I'm going to go with Villanova, the 1 seed there, because I probably should take 1 seed.
Yeah, anyway. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. But man, if you tell me in 4 days, Randy, that Colin Sexton went off and had a pro day, an Alabama pro day, unlike the kind we're used to talking about against Villanova, I believe you. I believe you because they have the talent. They just didn't win a lot of games this year. So I think I'll go Nova, Duke, Michigan, Zona.
I like it. And that'll be the weekend before the Masters, another great CBS Sports event, the Final 4 down in a fantastic place for the Final Four. San Antonio is an amazing city, and it's perfect and a great venue for the Final Four, wouldn't you say?
I actually am very excited because I've never been to San Antonio. There was one year since I started that they held it there, and I was back in the studio. And it's funny that you mentioned the Masters because in a slightly related situation, I did my usual map search for the closest disc golf course to the Final Four, and it looks like I'll have some choices here.
In San Antonio area?
It looks like Trinity University has a course in a very an area that's very green on my map.
Hey, you know, Trinity University was where the San Antonio Gunslingers in the USFL played their games, where they had to put 15,000 folding chairs in the end zones. And I did a game there against the Oakland Invaders, and the Gunslingers were quarterbacked by a young man by the name of Rick Neuheisel.
Oh my goodness! This is coming full circle.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was.
Maybe we should do a profile on Rick while we're there for the Final Four. I'm sure
exactly.
He'd be up for it.
Exactly. No, if you remember back to, how much can people anticipate hearing about this whole controversy in college basketball? Do you think it's going to be dealt with much during the course of the tournament? Because there's pregame time, there's break time, there's post-game time. Are we going to hear much about that, do you think?
I wonder how they're going to do it because, you know, when I'm in the update chair, it won't be much. When I'm doing the highlight show, it'll be the highlights. If there's news, then it'll be covered very well. But what's crazy to me is you had guys earlier this year who got held out of playing while they investigated, you know, this and that. Like Billy Preston after he got in a car accident, there was an investigation into how he got the car. And to me, a car is something that you have to register. You have to have insurance. You know, you have to have all this stuff. And that investigation was taking so long that he left and went overseas to play. And after 3 games, got hurt and came home. I don't understand how it took so long for all these other things to get resolved earlier this year. And yet, after this report came out about the list of players, and after this story about Sean Miller, who did miss 1 game, but DeAndre Ayton didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, it was almost like the schools already had reported these things, had already investigated these things, showed the NCAA what they knew, and the NCAA said, move along, or these aren't the droids you're looking for, or whatever it was. Yeah. And they were back on the court because there was a 24-hour period where I was wondering, okay, are all of these star players, who, by the way, are mostly one-and-done players, are these guys off the court for good? Are they going to be in the tournament? Because some of the reports that originally came out said, you know, Hall of Fame coaches will tremble, lottery picks will be ineligible, the earth will reverse its rotation.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was almost like a storm went through town, and now it's gone, and no trees fell.
Yeah.
And
none of these schools will be in the tournament.
Yeah.
Where you look
like
up
they're
and you
gonna
say,
immediately put self-imposed bans together?
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it was like, well, is Arizona just kind of rolling the dice here on all of this? Like Sean Miller came out in the senior day press conference, and he said, well, you know what? DeAndre Ayton, Alonzo Trier, these guys, my stars, they're not coming back anyway. They're not even coming back. And Trier, by the way, had tested positive for a PED again, and next thing you know, he's back on the court. So is the penalty of getting a banner removed so minor now in the memories of people that they're just willing to roll it out there anyway and say, hey, we're not going to have a banner if we don't play these guys anyway, so let's do this? I don't know. Louisville was supposed to be losing the championship from a few years ago, and one of the guys calling their NIT game yesterday took a picture of the gigantic national championship banner they have in the window facing the outside of the KFC Yum Center. So it may not be dangling from the rafters in its like appropriate Cameron Indoor, Hinkle Fieldhouse type of look. So unless there's some big story, unless someone else comes out as a whistleblower, you know, I think that's it for now. I would, if the Department of Justice feels the need for PR, then maybe they drop the hammer right before the Final Four, especially if you have a Michigan State or an Arizona.
Yeah, DOJ is kind of busy.
You think?
I don't think they really need to be dabbling on the sports
They
side.
don't need PR. As soon as they say anything, you got 3 cable news networks of all various places on the spectrum to cover it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Adam, you mentioned disc golf, and we talked a little bit about what's after the Final Four, which is the Masters. If disc golf has an Augusta National, if there's a course in the world, in the country, that if you're a disc golfer, you've got to play, what is it?
Well, wow. There'd be a lot of opinions on this, man. There's, and I can only speak to where I've played, but there's a place in Rock Hill, South Carolina, where they have the U.S. DGCs every year, the U.S. championships, like the U.S. Open of disc golf. Yeah. I haven't played there. People swear by that. There's a place called Maple Hill, which is in Massachusetts, which has a huge following. My personal favorite at this point is attached to Smuggler's Notch Resort in Vermont.
Hey now.
And that's where the disc golf pro tour is going to be. There's like this separate tour within the tour kind of a deal. Mm-hmm. 6 separate high lucrative events, if you will. I mean, not lucrative for regular golf, but for these guys.
Yeah.
And they just changed the name of it too, and I'm blanking on it right now, which is a real shame because I'd love to pop it. But it's right attached to Smuggler's Notch. It was 18 holes. It became 27. Now it's 36, and there's just some sick throws, and I love it. But there's a whole website dedicated to rating the courses. But for me, I look forward every year. We go up to Smuggler's Notch for about a week, and there's always a day where I take my son and we hit the course, and he's getting pretty good.
That's great. That's fantastic. Hey, Adam, really appreciate you joining me. Get some sleep because you're going to need it the next you got about probably until next week or so, about another 5 days.
Yeah. I feel like the big carved out plastic wood-looking ride has hit the top of the conveyor belt, and I'm about to go down the log flume. So, wee!
All right, Adam. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
You bet.
All righty. Be well.